Hi guys, welcome back. So what a fantastic match. What a tussle. 27 to England, 26 to South Africa. England just pipping it at the end. They had a big half-time lead, but South Africa completely dominated that second half. And in some ways, I'm not sure how they didn't actually win. Well, certainly goal kicking was a big part of that, but there's lots to get into here. Love to know your thoughts in your comments below. Obviously, England are going to be delighted, but I don't think South Africa should be too disappointed. Obviously, they will be with not winning, but there weren't any massive problems apart probably from the goal kicking. So let's get into it. Now, literally the first note I made was England are clearly trying to protect Smith in defence. And actually later in the game, we see where Smith's weakness really is in defence. It's something he needs to improve. Physically, he's fairly strong, so hopefully he can. But other parts of his game are excellent. The bounce of the ball certainly favours England in this first 5 minutes. Could have gone either way. And they get a good chance with a couple of scrum penalties, more technical scrum penalties. But England are going to take that. Get a nice line out, some good defence in the maul from South Africa. And England are bashing at the door. And then some nice handling. Smith and Slade, their passing was very slick today. Slade was certainly very helpful. Tuolangi then finishes in the corner. Looks rather laboured in his finishing. He's got his knee heavily strapped, and indeed he has to go off straight away after that. So it looks like an injury that Tuolangi had brought into the match from training. It was a bit of a risk and it didn't pay off. So their big power back has gone. So it's 7-0, great conversion from Smith, hit some really good kicks, so that was another big difference. Now, it's not a perfect start from England at all. Youngs is making multiple mistakes with box kicks, May multiple mistakes, but both packs are fired up. It's full-blooded stuff. I'm really enjoying it, even though it's not super clean. And a nice attack from South Africa, and they look dangerous, making good ground going forward. Get a penalty 7-3, so it doesn't look like they're going to go anywhere, that's for sure. It's game on, proper test match. Then on 16 minutes, a huge miss pass from Slade, a good 20 plus metres. England do have one power back left, and that's Freddie Stewart. And he targets South Africa's smallest player, to be fair, and bashes through Reinach for another try. A 14-3, lovely conversion again from Smith. So it's just the dream start that England needed, and it proved they really needed it. But they're not looking comfortable at any point in this half, even though they've got that big lead. South Africa look incredibly dangerous. The likes of D'Alande looking dangerous as well. And indeed, a big maul from South Africa, and their maul looked decent all game. Gets them another 3 points, 14-6. England are actually getting ahead on the penalty count here. So, they're getting some good penalties out of South Africa. South Africa need to tidy up. They're giving away some points here. Curry does pretty decently in the jackal as well a couple of times. So England get back again. Another 3 points, 17-6. Then we get a good kick from Pollard. He didn't have too many, but this was a big long ranger on 26 minutes. So another 3, 17-9. And then another powerful maul from South Africa creeps them back again, 17-12. So they're closing the gap with their power, although they're not completely tidy. The Toji and Hill were some big plays. I mean, Hill certainly stepped up big time for England in these autumn internationals, so that's great. Just made a little note here. Max Malin's very skillful player, made some good tackles later on, but doesn't quite have the pace to be an out-and-out international winger potentially. Radwan maybe could have made more of some chances that Malin's had. D'Alande easily covers Malin's, looks easily as quick as him as well. South Africa, though, they're under pressure. But some massive tackles. Oxenche destroys Rod, probably the pick of those. It's a good tussle. Curry's winning some penalties, but some big hits from South Africa. So, really close. But England do manage to pin South Africa in their own half, so their power doesn't turn into any more points. So it's 17-12 at half time. England had the best of possession, best of attacking shape, but South Africa, they just looked like a caged tiger. I was writing this at the time, so I didn't know they actually came back so heavily in the second half, but it just felt, even in that first half, that they could spring open and go roaring on at any point. So nicely poised game. So with the start of the second half, we see the start of South African dominance. I mean, goodness me, they absolutely smashed England in many areas in this second half. And straight away, a couple of minutes in, we have that first big power shunt. Danger signs, definitely. And also the first really ropey strike from Pollard. It's been a big problem for his for a while, and it continued. Amazing D'Alande offload, nearly gets Creel free up the right wing. A really poor tackle from Youngs. He wasn't great, to be fair, in this game. But a note here again, Freddie Steward's aerial work, just unbelievable, just so first choice. That's a big plus for England in these autumn internationals, is Freddie Steward. And the bomb squad is on now. It's making a big impact. Marks in the loose wins a penalty, but Pollard misses that again. Real problem. And England make a change, taking Ben Youngs off, which I wasn't surprised at the time because he wasn't looking the best. Quirk's on early. Big match for him, and he certainly repays that faith. But the scrum is really starting to creak for England. Kitsoff giving Sinclair problems. Players like Johnny Hill fighting hard. Yeah, like I said, he's been transformed, but the whole pack from South Africa was starting to mince England, and it carried on. Smith is targeted in defence, like I mentioned he was. A couple of times they make easy ground by hitting Smith's channel, so that's something he needs to work on. Get a penalty from that. Finally slot one. They're back to within 2, 17-15, and the power is edging it. I mean, England really, really struggling, giving away plenty of penalties. They haul Pollard off, which seems a good call because he's struggling. South Africa just looked like scoring at any point. England just completely under the pump, and I can't believe how they don't concede more tries. Well, it was really good defence from England. One period they actually kind of stopped the ball just up to the line 3 times indeed. Malins holds it up on the last attempt to survive. Now, how England are surviving is unbelievable. Some good defence. Malins eventually holds up a try which had been stopped on the line a couple of times before. And of course, it goes to a goal line dropout from that. And Taine goes for the drop goal and probably should have got it again. How South Africa aren't ahead, I don't know. They left so many points out there in the second half. Drop your comments below, South Africans, if your head was in your hands with all those missed kicks. And I made a point here that England have literally been under the pump for 20 straight minutes. Something's got to give. They get a penalty against South Africa and go ahead finally. It's well deserved, 17-18. And at this rate, about 60 minutes in, it looks like this is South Africa's game. This is where they pull away like they do against many sides. But then we get the moment of the match, that big try for England from halfway, completely against the run of play. So it's a set-piece move off the top line-out. Now, massive pass from Quirk to Slade, soft hands to Marchant through the gap, then 2-on-1 to Quirk. So it sounds easy, but it's not at all. It's just very well timed stuff, and it's one of the few times D'Alande and Am get it wrong. Now, the missed pass to Slade from Quirk cuts out Smith, so Smith is then free to loop around the back of Slade, which just pulls Am out and leaves Marchant, who is technically his man, to hit the hole. Now, if in doubt, when you're coaching centres to defend, they're always or often going to be against more numbers. And if in doubt, you defend narrow because you can always drift, hopefully, and that's easier to defend. And this time, Am does get pulled out wide, leaves the gap. Marchant, great pace, and then good pace from Quirk to finish. So a bit of an error from South Africa, but nicely executed from England for sure. So that's the moment of the match. They go back ahead. But then on 66 minutes, England have been giving away loads of penalties, so they've got to be careful. And Stewart isn't careful there, goes straight in the side of the maul, really obviously. Easy yellow to give. He comes back on and redeems himself a bit, but that was a bad moment there. It was probably coming. And England's forwards are being completely out-muscled. I mean, it's so bad, and finally South Africa do get their try that really was coming. It's a walk-in for Mapimpi on the left eventually, just because England were getting completely smashed up and they ran out of numbers. But Elton Yankees is on instead of Pollard because Pollard's kicking was so bad, and Elton Yankees misses this one as well. So, it's just that win is elusive for them. They should be ahead by, 6 points by now, at least, something like that. And what they do is they change the kicker straight away. They change it to Steyn, and not even for the long rangers. So he finally nails one. It works. They go back ahead with just 8 minutes to go, and you think, right, this is it probably now. South Africa probably deserved to win from their dominance in the second half. It feels like they've been dominating for half an hour straight, plus that one magic moment from England. But then we get our second massive moment. Now, this one is very unlucky for Khaleesi. He's definitely going for the ball. It's more of a collision in the air. It looks like he's tackled him, but I think it's just because his arms are out. But these days, the player that's higher in the air tends to get looked after very carefully by the refs. It is kind of consistent, I suppose, but it is dreadfully unlucky for Khaleesi. So he goes off with a yellow. But England is still struggling. I mean, their line-out's really struggling as well. We know their scrum struggling. And finally comes a match-winning moment, and it comes from England. And if you track it all the way back, 'cause it's a really long phase of play, it's actually Stewart, who's just come back on, who makes a tackle, and probably that rest on the bench helped him there, jumps back up and goes for a big counter-ruck, which launches the big phase, which eventually gets the penalty. Nice and easy one for Smith to slot, 27-26. It's pretty much all over, although Stewart still has to deal with one massive tricky restart, which he just about does. He is a beast in the air. And England win. I mean, so what a result for England, but South Africa, they will be gutted they didn't win that, because they absolutely dominated at least 90% of that second half, but that moment from Quirk, if you like, or that set-piece moment from England was probably the match winner, plus all those missed kicks. But that is test match rugby. You've got to take your chances. South Africa didn't take enough when probably they should. Good for England. South Africa wouldn't worry too much. It's been a long, long season for them, and they've done themselves proud, so they deserve their rest. It's a good, positive way for the youngsters of England to go into the break until the Six Nations, if you like, the international break at least. So, guys, let me know what you think of that massive game. Comments below, and I will catch you next time.